Hey, it's Laura. Welcome back to my channel. My husband and I are leading a summer project with students up at our ministry's ranch, and one of the things that we've been talking about with the students is the Changes That Heal the Growth model by Dr. Henry Cloud. And it is a basic relational life skill because in all reality, relationships are a huge part of our life and our effectiveness. We can be super effective in ministry or any of the skills that we do, but if we are unable to have a healthy interpersonal relationships or healthy relationships with other people, then it's going to diminish our effectiveness. And so that's why we're talking with the students about each one of the elements in the growth model. And the first one I want to talk about today is grace plus truth over time. And grace is basically getting something you don't deserve. You can think of it as an example of you're speeding on the highway and a cop pulls you over, and instead of giving you a ticket, he gives you $166 or whatever that ticket would cost. So you're actually getting more than you deserve. It can also be described in relationally in terms of what we've been given by Jesus's death on the cross. So people who put their trust in Jesus, we have been given acceptance, unconditional acceptance, and uninterrupted, unearned, unbroken love and relationship with the Father. That is grace. That is getting what we don't deserve. It's getting something that we didn't earn. There's nothing ever we could do to get it. It's really what Adam and Eve had in the Garden of Eden before they sinned. They had this really secure relationship with the Father, but sin actually broke that, and that's when they started feeling anxious and they had shame and started feeling like they couldn't be who they truly were. So basically, grace is the relational aspect of God's character. Truth, then, is the second ingredient necessary to grow up into the image of God. It's what's real, and it describes how things really are. I mean, it just lays it out there, no regard to people's feelings at all. And just as grace is the relational aspect of God's character, truth is the structural aspect of his character. And let's see, if we think about Adam and Eve, without grace, they felt shame and they felt guilty. And then when they heard God walking in the garden of the cool of the day, they hid from God. And God called out, "Where are you?" They hid. And Adam explains, I was hiding because I was afraid. So that is the result of truth without grace, is we hide. We want to, the shame causes us to go inward, and we want to not let anybody see that the parts of us that aren't perfect, that aren't, wonderful, that we want others to see. So Jesus is, full of grace and truth. And without the law, or the law without grace actually destroys us. Nobody grows when they are under the law, because the law is the knowledge of sin. The law is there to show us we cannot measure up and we need a savior. Like, that's why the law exists, is to show us Jesus. And then, so truth without grace, it brings guilt, it brings anxiety, it brings anger, and a host of other painful emotions. But we also can't understand grace without the law. So we actually really need both. And that's why in John 1:14, 16 and 17, it says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of one and only who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. For the law was given through Moses, and grace and truth came through Jesus Christ." So the passage shows us both how people fail and how they are redeemed, how failure comes through the law, but redemption comes through Jesus. And it's only through him that we realize that the two ingredients for growth, grace and truth. So grace if we were to look at the other side, grace without truth, it actually makes us safe from condemnation, but there's no way we can experience true intimacy. But when the one who offers grace and truth, truth about who we are, truth about who God is, truth about things around us, life around us, other people, we actually then can be real with ourselves and then have real intimacy. It's really possible. So real intimacy always comes in the company of grace and truth. And we can actually see that in how Jesus treated the adulterous woman when he knew she was caught in adultery. And he said, go and sin no more. He spoke truth, but he offered her amazing grace, right? So he accepted her with the full realization of who she was, an adulteress, with sinful desires, sinful actions, and he gives her direction for her future. So I think it's interesting to think about how many of us come to Christ realizing that we need a Savior because we haven't measured up to perfection. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to prove that we really are worthy when really we're not. Like Jesus is our worthiness, right? And instead of trying to hide that we as Christians are, my hand's getting tired here. Like we don't need to hide our imperfections even after we're Christians, because in Galatians 3:3 it says, "Oh, foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? Having begun by the Spirit, are you now being made perfect by the flesh?" So the same way that we came to Christ, by confess and surrender, by saying, I totally have messed this up, I'm so sorry, here's my life, I surrender it to you, is the same way we grow, is by saying, I still need you. Please live your life through me to live this life that would be pleasing to you. And that is living out the grace and truth paradigm that really helps us grow. It also helps us to be in real relationships with people when we're honest about who we really are. And it could be compared to like a legalistic church versus a AA group. If you think about a legalistic church, it would be it's culturally unacceptable to have any problems, right? Because that's called being sinful. Or like an AA group, it's culturally unacceptable to be perfect because that's called denial. So really, in the legalistic group, people look better, but they get worse because they're not real and vulnerable and open, getting grace and truth in community with each other. And then in the AA group, they actually look worse, but they're getting better because we grow in the context of community when there's grace and truth in the context of community over time. And so that is the first element of the growth model of Changes That Heal by Dr. Henry Cloud. And it is a great foundation, and I hope it's a blessing to you. Go ahead and subscribe below. You can hit the notification because then you'll be notified when a new video is posted. And there is some other really, really great topics in this series of the growth model, and they really are. They bring so much healing in your relationships with people and your ability to relate with other people that will help you be more effective in your ministry, in your life, in anything that God has called you to. So make sure to subscribe so you can get notified of the other videos. All right, thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.